What is going on, guys? It's CH from Homebrewing for Life here with No Monkey Business Content Day. Just a Braj and his Logitech C92XX webcam. This is the cheapest Homebrew for Life video and the least amount of production and effort, but there's still might be some good information in here. Maybe. For those who are unaware, we do a live stream chat on another channel called The Hoppy Hour. We do it every Wednesday night, and there's an ongoing debate whether homebrewing saves you money or not. Seems like it goes on forever. And today we're going to talk about the math of buying beer, the math of homebrewing, and 5 ways to be much more financially efficient as a homebrewer. The ongoing debate, do you save money as a homebrewer? The answer is yes. And the answer is also no. Like most adult hobbies, you got to spend money. I've talked to brewers who spend a lot of money on nice stuff, and I've talked to brewers who use plastic fermenters and only drink their homebrew. They do not go out. They spend a lot less money than I do. I go out a lot and I homebrew. And with the right system and knowledge, I guarantee you that there are ways to save money, and I guarantee you there's ways not to save money. And really fast, quick disclaimer, there is no right or wrong. We're adults with disposable income, and some people have more disposable income than other people. If I made more money, I'd probably have a nicer brew house. But if you do want to get into brewing, or you're intimidated by all this nice stuff, then this video is for you. Or if you're just an existing brewer and you want to figure out more ways to just save money and have better margins on making beer. Real quick though, I got this written down. Let's do some beer math. The average 6-pack is about $15 these days. $15 just to keep the math simple. And buying 5 gallons in 6-pack increments is about $140. Now I'm not factoring time and money and all the existing stuff that we bought. The corny kegs and the fermenters and the keg graders and stuff like that. I'm talking about just recipe development. Every hobby has startup costs, whether it's golf or dirt biking or gaming. All I'm talking about is recipe costs. And I could make 5 or 10 gallon batches of beer for about $20 to $40. I'm talking about popular styles, IPAs, pale ales, bitter beers. I'm not talking about the vanilla bean, milkshake, diet Pepsi, hard seltzer, triple session sour IPA. Those get really expensive to make on a 5-gallon scale. I've made beer, 5-gallon batches for I think like $80 or $100, and we're not talking about those. We're talking about pretty much a pale ale. So here is 5 steps on how to brew without breaking the bank. Step 1, buy your grain in bulk. Buy your grain in bulk. I buy my base malts from my friend's breweries. They are 55-pound bags. This is significant. Local homebrew stores sell 2-row for about $1.25 a pound. At mine, $1.10 to about $1.40 a pound. That's a lot in my world. That's a lot in commercial breweries' worlds. I'm not a commercial brewery, but I just know the margins of this stuff. If you're buddy-buddy with some local microbrews, and I would ask, and I'm sure it's not a problem if they like you. I think I get my bags for $35 or $40, which is probably what I think they get it for. And when you do the math on that, it comes out to 72 cents a pound. So you're going from $1.25 to 72 cents a pound. 72 cents versus $1.25 scales up fast, very fast. It is very significant. And I always have 2-row. Just get an airtight pet food container and it'll be good for years. As long as it's not wet or milled, it'll be good. Even my garage is a little bit hotter than room temperature. I've still hit my sugar. I've still hit my gravities. I've still got my sugar from it. You don't need to buy a specialty grain in bulk. It'll just sit at your house forever. It sits at homebrew stores forever. You don't need to get specialty grain. That's what I typically do when I go to my local homebrew store. I'm buying specialty grain and I'm buying yeast. Really quick, say you're doing a double IPA of a 10-gallon batch. We'll just call it 20 pounds of 2-row. If you're buying from your local homebrew store at $1.25, that's $25 in grain. And if you're using 20 pounds of your 55-pound bag at 72 cents, that's $14. You've almost already cut your brew day in half. And you're gonna go through a lot of base grains pretty much every time you brew. Number 2, brew in a bag. B-I-A-B. This one is huge and it's new to me. When I started brewing, there wasn't even this option, or maybe there was, but it just didn't have the exposure yet. But I know a lot of friends who brew in a bag. I know professional brewers who homebrew brew in a bag, and it's the most affordable way to do all grain, without question, by so far. It's a single vessel, and I watch a ton of YouTube videos on it and I see the process. I'm like, that is very affordable and efficient. For those who have been watching our channel throughout the years know that we have brewed on everything. We've brewed on 3-tier systems and kegels and water coolers and converted water coolers and grain fathers and anvil foundries and kettles with gravity. But mostly now we're on the anvil foundry system doing 5-gallon batches. And I think that just dated back from getting into kettle sours. I don't even know, 2018 or 2019. Just for the temperature control. But before that, it was pretty much 10-gallon batches for like 2 years. If you watch some of the Sculpin IPA videos or the, I don't even know, the Pine Drops IPA or the Hazy IPA, it was pretty much 10-gallon batches without pumps, just using gravity for, I don't even know. I'll go back and do the math for the live stream or something. And even if you build it yourself, you're building your kegels and you're building your hot liquor tanks and you're cutting out your kettles and all that, your 3-vessel system, it's still going to be expensive and it still takes a ton of work. With Brew in a Bag, you have 1 vessel for all of that, 1 thing to clean up, 1 vessel to store, and ultimately it's 1/3 of the cost of a 3-vessel system. They're all pretty much the same price. Hot liquor tank, mash tun, and kettle. And I'm actually in the market now for a Brew in a Bag system, a 10-gallon Brew in a Bag system. Since I'm going to be doing pretty much only lagers this summer, and I'm going to be doing splatches, split batches, 5 gallons here, 5 gallons there, put a different yeast in it, put different fruit in it, put different fruit at a different time in it. But for the most part, splatches is same grain, same water, maybe same hops, and then just kind of play around with the yeast and stuff like that. So I'm actually in the market for 10 gallons of Brew in a Bag system. And I saw a barrage on the Discord the other day asking me about creating new channels with the beginner and the intermediate and the advanced. And I think that's the last thing that I'm going to do on the Homebrew for Life Discord. That's just not like the Homebrew for Life way is any of that. I don't even know what like beginner or advanced or intermediate even means anymore. I don't even know how to extract brew. I haven't done it in years. I mean, I could probably sniff it out and I've probably got some videos on it, but it would take me maybe an hour of research. So I don't even know how people are chalking up like beginner, intermediate, or advanced. You know, I remember back in the day, it was like all grain was considered advanced, but it was like, you could easily just flip that and just say like extract was the advanced. I don't know how to do extract. So it's not like, oh, if you do Brew in a Bag, you're not like an advanced brewer or something like that. Fuck all that shit. The goal when I brew beer is that I want my homebrew to taste and has the same alcohol content is the stuff that I buy in the stores. The beer that they sell me at breweries, I want my homebrew to taste exactly like that. And however you get there is however you get there. Whether it's Brew in a Bag or a $20,000 system or an anvil foundry or a grain father or an extract brewer, however you get there is however you get there. And that's how I've kind of always looked at maybe homebrewing. Maybe I was a little bit snobbier back when I started just based off the culture and people that, you know, won awards and were professional brewers tell me how to brew. But you gotta get all that out of your head. However you get there is however you get there. And if a beer tastes how it's described, it's a good beer. It's a great beer. You could have the best beer recipe of all time. You could win all these medals and have all these bragging rights. The hardest part of beer is you still have to figure out how to sell it. Long story short, Brew in a Bag is the most affordable way to do all grain. Number 3, buying hops in bulk. This has even bigger margins than the grains. Hops at local homebrew stores are like $3 to $4 an ounce. And a pound of hops is like 16 bucks an ounce. That comes out to $1 an ounce. I mean, do you want to pay $1 for something or do you want to pay $4 for the exact same thing? I mean, this is significant. And I'm sure we've all been there. Like I remember printing out a recipe, going back to a local homebrew store and giving the guy my printout of Beersmith or whatever and him putting the recipe together and him being like, okay, that'd be $80. And you're like, what? $80? He's like, yeah, there's like $55 in hops. You need 6 hops for this IPA and then 6 ounces of hops for this IPA and then 6 ounces to dry hop. And I remember like, I can't buy this, or I got to put this back. I didn't know I was in this whole reality of like a 5-gallon batch was $60, $80, or $100. Like I had to figure that out really fast. So I would buy hops by the pound and then you're pretty much, even at the high, 10 ounces of hops, which is a lot for a 5-gallon batch, is only $10. Is only $10. Even if you can score a pound of hops for $20, pull the trigger on it. Just do smash beers all day and figure out that hop. Smash beers. Same malt and same hop. It's a good way to learn about hops. Buy by the pound and get a vacuum sealer. I love my vacuum sealer. I have all these hops stored for months, maybe up to a year on end. I vacuum seal everything. All my meat, all my poultry. You can do anything to avoid freezer burn, and it really preserves the longevity of this stuff. So, or buy a pound, share it with a buddy. Cut it in half, $9 each or whatever. Now you get almost what, 10 ounces of hops each? No, 8 ounces of hops each. Hops are very expensive to buy by the ounce. I'll have a link in the description for my vacuum sealer. Amazon affiliate, baby. Give me all your money. And I don't reuse yeast. I used to, and it just wasn't worth it. Plus, there's so many new yeasts out in the market for home brewers and commercial brewers just to experiment with. So, I mean, that's your call. You're gonna save a couple bucks, but I just didn't think it was worth it. And as far as water goes, water's pretty much free if you're using RO water. What is that, $5? $5 a gallon? No, 5 gallons for $1. The two big ones without question for homebrewers are buying grain and hops in bulk. Buy by the bag for grain, buy by the pound in hops. And I still see some pretty good deals on even Amazon. Amazon's a really bad place to buy recipe development stuff, but you'll see some stuff sometimes for a pound of hops for 20 bucks or something like that. And go for it. Go for it. Number 4, this is huge. This might be the biggest factor of all of this is scale up. 10-gallon batches of beer are the best way to go, or a very, very good way to go. It's still the same amount of time and effort, and it's really just like $5 or $10 more for recipe development if you're following these steps. 10 gallon is a really good number solely just because of the weight. You know, wort weighs like 8 pounds of a gallon, so you can still move your stuff around. It's maybe 100 pounds, 120 pounds tops. You can still move that around without having to use a pump. Anything you go bigger than 10 gallons, you're gonna have to use a pump. You pretty much pumps. You can't use gravity anymore at that point, unless you've got 2 guys that are, you know, lifting weights all day, but it gets really heavy really fast. And again, like I said before, I'm all about putting together 10-gallon batches of BIAB for splatches, split batches all summer. Scale up. Number 5, and I know I kind of beat a dead horse with this one, but just the overall concept of homebrewing, that nice does not mean that it's necessary. And generally this stems from like the fermenter homebrewing crowd. For those who have been brewing since the siphon days, know that there's a whole new world of homebrewing products nowadays. You know, Apartment Steve came on the live stream and was talking about how he has homebrewing in his family tree, fathers, uncles, grandfathers that used to make great beer and didn't have all this eye candy, shiny, nice, RoboCop 2 looking expensive stuff. And they were still making great beer. And when I started brewing, I think in 2014 or 2015, there was no $700 5-gallon fermenters. At least that I didn't, not in my world. I didn't know. And then, you know, the accessories on top of that, all of a sudden you're up to over maybe $1,200 to $1,500 for like 5-gallon batches of beer. And I talked with Brian from Short Circuited, who has been around the homebrewing block longer than I have, and we were talking about how this works nowadays and why it's going on. And the best answer we could come up with is that homebrewers will spend a lot of money to look and feel like commercial brewers. And I think for me personally, it's better to keep those a little bit distinguished because I know they both have their pros and their cons. Yeah, at the end of the day, we're making beer, but there's different variables of things that we can control versus what we can't control versus them. And just to reiterate, all this new stuff is nice, but it is not necessary. I'm just the type of guy that would rather brew on a Home Depot bucket than a $1,000 fermenter. And I kind of laugh at that shit, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, there's no right or there's no wrong. I mean, who the hell am I? And people comment like, oh my God, I just bought this new fermenter and I feel bad because you're making like $7 fermenters or your Anvil bucket's $100. That's the last thing I want people to do. It's like, hey, live your life. You know, if you can afford a $1,000 fermenter, you probably have a lot more money than me. You probably have a better job than me. There's a ton of stuff that comes out and it's gorgeous. It's a mini version of what it looks like at your favorite brewery. And just know that it's nice, but it's not necessary.